From 1603 to 1868, Japan closed its borders to outsiders and forbade Japanese people from leaving the island. This self-isolation was known as sakoku, and it was one of the defining features of the Edo or Tokugawa period. While Europe and its colonies were experiencing uprisings and revolutions, Japan remained largely cut off from external influence under the rule of the Tokugawa shogunate. Keep watching as we explore the culture and society of Japan during the Edo period. During the 1400s, Japan lived through a period of instability and war. The country's unification started in the mid-1500s with Oda Nobunaga, the most powerful warlord in Japan. By 1590, Japan was united under samurai and daimyo Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Hideyoshi died in 1598 after appointing 5 high-ranking officials, called tairo, to protect his young son until he came of age. One of these regents, Tokugawa Ieyasu, made what was viewed as a power grab when he moved to Hideyoshi's palace in Kyoto and approved a number of political marriages that strengthened the position of his own clan. Many of the tairo and the daimyo suspected that Ieyasu planned on supplanting Hideyoshi's son and heir, Toyotomi Hideyori. In the summer of 1600, a samurai named Ishida Mitsunari, who had formed a coalition dedicated to maintaining the authority of the Toyotomi clan, denounced the actions of Ieyasu. In response, Ieyasu declared war. The following conflict, the Battle of Sekigahara, was the last major conflict between the eastern and western armies. Ieyasu was victorious, and Mitsunari was beheaded in Kyoto. Ieyasu took profitable lands from his defeated enemies and gave them to his allies. His success afforded him a great deal of power. In 1603, Emperor Go-Yōsei, head of the prestigious yet powerless imperial court, granted Ieyasu the title of shogun, acknowledging him as the most powerful daimyo in Japan. As the seat of the Tokugawa shogunate, Edo became a major administrative center in Japan. 2 years later, Ieyasu retired and passed the title of shogun on to his son. Even in retirement, Ieyasu was heavily involved in foreign affairs and welcomed trade with Portugal, Spain, Holland, and England, securing firearms, commercial profits, and general information. But by 1612, he had entirely changed his views on the Europeans. In particular, Ieyasu saw the Christian missionaries as threatening his carefully constructed political order. Ieyasu believed that the unrest and civil wars in Japan resulted from the introduction of Christianity, which was mainly introduced by the Portuguese. He began to limit foreign trade and restricted the movements of Christian missionaries. Ieyasu's policies were intensified by his grandson, Tokugawa Iemitsu, who implemented the policy of sakoku. Iemitsu issued further bans on Christianity in the 1630s, essentially banning Christianity from Japan. Iemitsu also exercised greater control over Japan's borders, requiring Japanese sea captains to carry a license. While Ieyasu started the Edo period, Iemitsu solidified the Tokugawa legacy. By 1634, Ieyasu and his followers knew that they were strong enough to rule without the imperial ruler's direct blessing. He was the last shogun to visit the imperial city of Kyoto for over 200 years. By 1635, Iemitsu had banned Japanese overseas travel and started limiting the number of foreign ships docking at Nagasaki. Japanese citizens were forbidden from traveling overseas, and returning to Japan from abroad usually meant the death penalty. Only a restricted number of Chinese and Dutch merchants were permitted to trade with Japan, using Dejima Island in the Bay of Nagasaki. As a further strategy of control, Iemitsu required the daimyo to maintain households in Edo and live there for a set amount of time. The law required the clan leaders' families to live permanently in Edo. The leaders had to return to their country estates every other year to oversee agricultural production. Since the daimyos had to travel and only spent a portion of their time in their hometowns, they were never able to organize an uprising. The fact that their families were in the capital also motivated them not to rebel. During the 264-year reign of the Tokugawa shogunate, a strict social order was implemented. The classes were split into warriors, farmers, artisans, and merchants, and mobility between the classes was forbidden. Although the imperial rulers still lived a life of luxury, they became largely figureheads with no real power throughout the Edo period. They cultivated the traditions of courtly life, including practicing the tea ceremony, waka poetry, ikebana, and calligraphy. but the ruling was left to the shogunate. Underneath the shogun and the daimyo were the samurai, who were at the top of the class system yet formed less than 7% of the population. They were the only Japanese citizens allowed to carry swords and served under lords who hired their services for protection. The samurai made their money by levying taxes on the farmers, who comprised 80% of the population and were the next class down. The farmers were forbidden to engage in non-agricultural activities and were essentially in servitude to those in authority. Underneath the peasants were the craftspeople and then the merchants. There was a bottom rung on the Japanese social ladder, the burakumin, or untouchables. These were anyone whose job was related to death, such as butchers, tanners, leather makers, undertakers, or gravediggers. Your parents' occupation determined your status, and so you and your descendants would be restricted by your class. In the home, families were expected to be obedient to the head of the household. Women did not have much status, and the notion of dansenjan, or respect for the male, contempt for the female, was encouraged. The Tokugawa regime also adopted Neo-Confucianism as their system of ethics, feeling that the previous Shintoism and Buddhism systems were inadequate. The Shoshigaku schools of philosophy offered intellectual rationalization for the strict social order known as the Bakuhan system. Japanese scholar Hayashi Reisen argued that the social order should reflect the Chinese heavenly order, and that, therefore, the strict class system was in accordance with the teachings of Confucius. The Tokugawa shogunate placed emphasis on agriculture, which stimulated economic growth. This economic expansion helped the development of urban centers in cities such as Edo, Osaka, and Kyoto. Edo, in particular, expanded exponentially and became one of the largest cities of its time. Edo's growth was primarily due to the decree that the daimyo had to build and maintain residences in Edo. The lords brought thousands of attendants, who all needed additional houses, food, clothing, goods, and entertainment. The growth of urban populations led to an explosion of culture, and the haiku form of poetry was developed, as well as kabuki and bunraku theater. Although samurai were forbidden to attend theater performances, the art was so captivating that the warrior class often disguised themselves to attend. Polychrome woodblock printing helped spread images of celebrities of popular culture and travel books, as well as detailed sites of historical or aesthetic interest, while people undertook pilgrimage to far-off temples and shrines. During the early Edo period, the imperial court, having been left to its own devices, generated a culture of its own known as the Kanai culture, which flourished under Emperor Gomazumo and his son Gyojo. Gomazuno also created salons where samurai, merchants, and courtiers could mingle freely, encouraging interaction between people from different backgrounds. Art and literature flourished, particularly from 1688 to 1704, named the Genroku period. During this era, urban centers flourished after an extended period of peace under the Tokugawa shogunate. Where Edo was the administrative capital, Osaka was Japan's commercial hub, and rapidly growing commerce enriched the city's merchant class. Unlike the samurai, who were bound by rigid rules, the townsfolk could spend their leisure time as they pleased, and their willingness to spend money further stimulated the economy. Some notable people from this era included playwrights Tsukamatsu Manzaemon and Takedo Izumo, writer Ihara Sakaku, who told humorous stories of urban life, haiku poet Matsuo Basho, and woodblock print artist Hishikawa Morinobu. Traditional arts also flourished, and education at the time included learning Japanese history as well as limited European knowledge that came from the few Dutch traders who were permitted in Nagasaki. Traditional dramatic dance performances, known as no drama, were very popular, as were flower arrangements. The tea ceremony, known as cha no yu, steadily rose in popularity among the ruling classes, and then among the increasingly wealthy merchants who began to collect famous tea ceremony antiques. The uptake of these traditional arts led to the formation of schools, and these art forms became professions. A distinguishing feature of the Edo period is the establishment of house heads, or iamoto, for tea masters and flower arrangements. During the Edo period, Japan established a sustainable society that was almost entirely self-sufficient. It was an era of unprecedented peace for Japan. However, it still experienced internal conflict. While the merchant class grew wealthy and the craftspeople were in high demand, the huge majority of the Japanese population, that is, the peasants, were still oppressed by the feudal system, which levied huge taxes on them. In some cases, around 40% of the farmer's rice harvest was given in taxes. The farmers often rebelled against their feudal lords, either rising in outright revolt or abandoning their fields en masse and threatening not to return until their demands were met. Researchers who studied these uprisings noted that areas with uprisings and desertions often paid less taxes, suggesting they may have been successful in their negotiations. Ultimately, the boom in urban and cultural expansion had a negative effect on the samurai and daimyo. Their income was intrinsically linked to agriculture. In Japan, only around 16% of the island was suitable for farming, and rice was the most dominant and successful crop in Japanese agriculture. The wealth of the daimyos was dependent on how much rice his land produced. Still, the farmers, keen to enjoy a better standard of living, had branched out from rice cultivation and were meeting the needs of the budding urban culture by growing commercial crops such as cotton and rapeseed, and those in the east had expanded into silkworms farming. The ruling elite simply could not keep up with the growing wealth of the merchant class. This problem also affected the shogunate, who, toward the end of the Edo period, had to contend with increasing peasant uprisings, financial issues, and unrest from the samurai. Furthermore, in 1853, America presented a real threat to Japan, and their period of sakoku was forced to come to an end. Throughout the 1860s, there was a call to reinstall imperial rule, and the samurai turned on the shogunate. In 1867, the last shogun was overthrown, and the Meiji Empire was restored to supreme power the next year. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about Japanese history, check out our book, History of Japan, a captivating guide to Japanese history, including events such as the Genpei War, Mongol invasions, Battle of Tsushima, and atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free Mythology Bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.